From the Tamil Heritage Trust, a very warm welcome to all of you who have joined us today for the May 2026 Monthly Talk Series program. For any of you who's familiar with Tamil periodicals or Tamil magazines, you couldn't have missed Ma.Se, the proliferous illustrating artist whose visual style is so distinct that he is unmistakably recognized by generations of readers. Whether it is for grand historical serials or contemporary stories, whether it is for science features or short fiction, Ma.Se's art contributes incredibly to the text. It does not merely accompany it, it gives the text a life of its own. It gives it some mood, some memory. For readers like me, Ma.Se's art is not just an integral part of our reading experience. It is inseparable from the cultural ethos of popular Tamil literature as propagated and developed by both literary magazines and widely read periodicals over the last 7 to 8 decades. We are extremely fortunate that we have an opportunity to know more about Ma.Se or Maniam Selven, the artist, from somebody who knows him and understands his art intimately. His daughter, Subhashini Maniam, who's an accomplished artist herself. In her talk titled Between Legacy and Self, Becoming Maniam Selven, Subhashini will give us a glimpse into the life of both Maniam Selven the artist and Maniam Selven the man and take us through the journey of his self-discovery and artistic evolution. A very warm welcome to you, Subha. Normally, I would have given you a brief overview of our organization, Tamil Heritage Trust here, but I think we will skip that because we've already lost a lot of time due to technical glitches. So I will quickly move to introducing the talk. As I already mentioned, Maniam Selven is a proliferous illustrating artist whom most of us recognize. What many of us may not know is that he is the son of the legendary artist Maniam, whose iconic work for Ponniyin Selvan remains etched in Tamil cultural memory. To begin one's career under the shadow of such a towering figure could not have been easy. Yet, Ma.Se did something remarkable. He honored that inheritance while steadily moving beyond it. Over time, he created a language, a vision, and an artistic identity that is entirely his own. Through his artistic journey, Ma.Se moved beyond commercial illustration into the realm of fine art, experimenting with multiple media. He developed a sophisticated visual language marked by luminous watercolors, experimental textures, and expressive compositions. He embraced digital art, renewing himself and staying relevant to younger generations, including Gen Z audiences today. That ability to evolve while remaining rooted in artistic excellence is what gives him a unique place in modern Indian art. He is someone who bridged the worlds of popular illustration and fine art, showing that the two need not be separate. As I already mentioned, today his daughter Subhashini Maniam will be giving us a glimpse into his life and take us across his journey. A little bit about Subhashini. She is an experienced artist and educator based in Western Australia with over 20 years of contributions to the art communities in India, Malaysia, Singapore, and Western Australia. With a background in fine arts and contemporary art practices, Shubha is passionate about cross-cultural integration and nurturing the next generation of artists. She has conducted children's workshops across various art centers in Perth and specializes in watercolors, sketching, and plain art painting, drawing inspiration from nature. Trained in Carnatic music, Shubha brings a unique multidisciplinary approach to her artistic practice. Shubha's ongoing committee to creativity, education, and cultural exchange continues to drive her artistic journey and enrich the communities she engages with. A very warm welcome to you, Shubha. I now hand over the screen to you to begin your lecture.
Thank you very much, Gauriji. I will start sharing.
Yeah.
All right. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Namaskarams and good evening to all. My gratitude to Tamil Heritage Trust for this opportunity to talk about my father, Maniam Selven. And special thanks and gratitude to Professor Swaminathan sir, who guided me at various instances over the years. To begin this talk, I would like to say this quote. This is something that I recently read and it's very close to my heart. The object isn't to make art. It is to be with that wonderful state which makes art inevitable. Today, I'm proud to share the life and work of my father Maniam Selven, an artist who embodies this quote and continues to do so. In a country where many forms of art are preserved and practiced by inheritance, it is not too surprising to find a son or a daughter inheriting the family's legacy. It is a special, intimate process that happens gradually as a child is initiated unknowingly into the world of art by being exposed to the process of creating, talking, and frustrating over art and making a mark as an individual with a strong identity and conviction. You have, Gauriji, you have already mentioned about Tata's achievement and his illustration work for Kalki Ponniyin Selvan. So I'm just going to continue with the talk. After grandfather, our father Maniam Selvan continues to share that dream and further the artistic journey for carving out by carving out a unique niche for himself. So this is let's have a glance of some of the significant works of Maniam Selvan. So we are just going to see how he developed after Tata's passing. At the time of birth, he was named Loganathan. Everyone called him Logu. And while in high school, Appa, I'm sorry, I tend to use these Tamil words to refer to my father as Appa or Tata for my grandfather. If it comes, just understand that's what it means. He initially had a dream of becoming an Indian Air Force pilot when he was in school. However, in the final year of senior school, the situation at home changed because of our grandfather's health started deteriorating. As the only child of the famed artist Maniam, Appa needed to be closer to his family. So initially, the intention was to join JJ School of Arts in Bombay after his high school, but he ended up joining College of Arts and Crafts in Madras. Back in those days, researching something was not as easy as it is today. With all the information that is available online, with a few clicks and in a moment's notice, we can get a basic understanding of a topic, or with internet is the limit for us to further delve into any subject. Preparing for an artistic work is an intensive process, time-intensive process, and you have to get inspired, you have to refer, you have to spend time visiting bookstores, collecting books of interest and harvesting references. So it was very difficult in the past. I'm sure a lot of you remember that. Over the 28-year career, our grandfather, because of all the efforts that he took in coming up with an extensive library at our home, and he had a system of detailed cataloging, and while Appa was growing up, he will ask him to get this book from there or take this reference from this section. So he was actually groomed by him to know what is where in his library. And at the time of Appa starting to apply for college in College of Arts, as a preparation, Tata needed to see how Appa would work. So he just said Appa to go find something and draw and bring it to him. And Appa's favorite artist, even till today, he will talk about this Matenia's work. He's an Italian illustrator. And he picked up one of Matenia's work and then he made a pen and ink sketch. That's what you're seeing here in the slide. And this was the very first study of Mantegna's work in 1967. And probably looking at this work, Tata might have understood that his son does have a flair in art. This is the first glimpse of that. This is the very first illustration of Appa that was published in 1967 for Kumudam Deepavali special edition, when the magazine featured the artworks of popular artists' children. So it was as if like he was introduced through his father's name to the world of Indian journals, Tamil journals. So to prepare for this, Tata asked Appa to go to Kabaleshwar temple and just observe the scene and draw something on his sketchbook and come. So Appa went and started drawing, and it was very easy for him as a 17-year-old to draw the still things or the structures or the background. But he couldn't figure out how he can capture the movement of the figures that is going past, people walking around or pushing the a vegetable trolley and things like that. So he did persist for a while and came back home, and he said frustratedly he couldn't get that and he could only do this. And then Tata actually started guiding him on how to understand the form and movement. So this was probably his first formal lesson. And this is the outcome of that. You can actually see the effect of that study of Mantegna's inspiration from the earlier work here in terms of handling of the lines. After this, Tata actually continued to guide Appa in the techniques of line and wash and suggested improvements for 1 year. And this was the time he already started his course in College of Arts, and Tata insisted that it is important to finish the course because he couldn't complete because he discontinued and joined Kalki when he started his career. So he insisted that Appa should finish diploma course. But while he did that, he said that it is important to keep in touch with the industry to be able to develop first-hand experience in the field. So there are a lot of background information that you get to learn as an intern while you're studying, and he said that was very important for you to learn. And so while Tata was alive, Appa started doing illustrations for Kannan Children's Magazine. And in September 1968, our grandfather passed away. So with that instance, he started seeking more part-time opportunities, freelancing opportunities, and it became a testing ground for his resilience to work hard and develop his career. And he only had 1 year of actual learning of information of how to do things from Tata, and he was sick as well. So a very short time he had a physical contact with Tata to learn things. So he was just left in the pool of water to learn to swim. So even though being son of Maniam gave him the initial opportunity, he had to work hard to deliver the work. If his work is not up to mark, he may not be given the next opportunity. And he really, it was a time to struggle and achieve the desired outcome, and he really pushed himself. I have heard Appa talk about like a lot of times he will say yes and he'll pick it up. But after coming home, the struggle he goes through to bring the work to the expected, desired outcome, it's a hard task without any guidance, being a 17-year-old, mind you. But that the very next year, just before the following year's Deepavali festival, that is 1969, as many of the Tamil readers know, it became like a tradition to see Maniam's work in Deepavali Malar. So that used to be a major thing because that was something very exciting, something new, colorful that happened only during Deepavali times. It was by Tata's grace or what, by the time that 1 year, he came to a point where he was actually commissioned by 5 different magazines to present different artworks for the same Deepavali edition. So the tradition of contributing to Deepavali editions from this family continued without interruption. The reason why I'm saying this is because it was the time that Tata passed on, which was nobody expected for him to go that early. And I think the what do you call, the weight of what Appa, my father, took from the time when his father passed on was too much for him to carry. And I still can't believe, in preparation of this talk, we were going through a number of slides, a number of paintings or artworks that he has done. And everything, it was very hard to compile. When you see all that, I think the weight of, we are not able to take that. So that was very important for my father to make sure that the very next year, in Deepavali Malar, his artwork came as a son of Maniam. And this was the first time his name, pseudonym, Maniam Selven, was publicly announced by the legendary Tamil journalist, writer Savi. And as you all know, Maniam Selven later became more prominently known as Ma.Se. The beginning years, 1969 to 1973, he focused on completing his formal studies, like his father advised. And during this time, he continued working freelance for various magazines. And in 1970, I think this was the third year of his course, that he was offered an internship at Efficient Publicity. It's an advertising agency. And graduating with gold medal in commercial art in 1973, he joined Efficient, the same company, Efficient Publicity, in full-time capacity. However, his interest in illustrations led him to quit his job after a year and a half and start freelancing for various Tamil magazine publications, ad agencies, education book publications, and so on. So if you look at him as a 20-year-old or a 21-year-old, he has had experience in working in ad agency, doing layouts, understanding the process of printing. And he's trying to establish as an illustrator as well. And coming out being a freelancing artist at that time was a huge step for Appa. During this period, if you actually see alongside, there were already leading artists like Silpi, Gopulu, Jayaraj, Maya, Ramu, Maruti, and they were all like leading artists at that time. And to identify himself as a growing artist during that time and to find a place among their standards, it was a huge task. Or you can even say that was the period of significant development for Ma.Se. So if you consider the years 1967 to 76. So it was the time that he was trying to improve his skills, continue to learn. He treated every magazine, every week's illustration that was coming out as an examination and a truth test. The anticipation of the reader's feedback had a profound impact on him. After this, in 1976, it was the 70s was the time of black and white period, you can say. Only the cover pages were printed in color, and all the inside pages will be black and white or at most two color. The focus of the quality of illustration was to support the printing process. So if you actually look at this particular artwork, it was done for Kalki's Arumbambugal. And Appa says that this was the very first time he found himself as a good artist. So I think it's a huge milestone for Appa. First thing, this is a story written by Kalki. Author Kalki's influence on our grandfather's art development or in our family, he holds he holds a very high place in all our hearts. So to have a break with that particular story made a lot of impact on Appa's career. afterwards.
Just a minute, Shubha, can you be a little louder? I think somebody in the audience is saying that. Or come a little closer to the mic.
Yeah, I can.
Yeah.
All right. So yes, so doing this illustration for Kalki was emotionally also for Appa, it was like a boost. Okay, so Kalki's writing is giving him a stage to perform. So he took it as a challenge. And I think a lot of people started recognizing him with this particular artwork, this particular series of stories. And it was a significant milestone. Is this better? Yeah, I assume.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So if you actually look, there are a lot of lessons that he learned by observing how Tata used to work. Because the amount of research that goes behind preparing for an illustration for any story is very important. So if you take a look at this particular one, it was actually Kalki's unfinished, unpublished story for a very long time. And after Kalki's passing only, Kalki Rajendran sir started, it came much later. So in 1976, yes. So, and this setting of the time period was, in 50s, it looks like, if you look at the car, it's much like 20 years before this particular time period. So the importance of the costume or the props or the location or the way the characters looked, everything should reflect the essence of the story. So this Appa learned from how Tata used to do background work before starting a project. So all of that was very important. And Appa always says that his father, grandfather used to insist like an illustrator should be like an encyclopedia. They should know a lot of information. So gather information, read more about it. So it was a very important thing for my father to make sure everything looked authentic to the writing. Let's look at the next one. So what we are looking at is a series of pen and ink works where the line plays a very important role. So this particular piece demonstrates a sensitive and deliberate use of mark making to construct both form and emotion. The rich vocabulary of marks like dots, short lines, the fluid squiggles, layered and varied in intensity here, to create texture, depth, movement within the composition, these marks are not merely descriptive, they become more like expressive tools and carrying the emotional weight of the piece. So the interplay between the dense and sparse areas creates a visual rhythm, and that echoes with the emotional cadence of a love poem. So this was for a poem, and clusters of more closely packed marks, while lighter, suggest intensity and longing, while the lighter and more open spaces offer moments of pause, reflection, and distance, mirroring the push and pull inherent in love and yearning. So you can see how the squiggles in particular introduce a lyrical quality, almost like visualized breath or whispered words, and so this is this sort of choosing what kind of technique will work for what kind of subject was very, very important for Appa. So let's have a look at another example. So this you can see was it was for a short story about a freedom fighter, and you can, in a glimpse, when you just look at the page, you can guess what is happening in the scene. So a lot of times before people actually start reading the book, they will look at the pictures and they will start looking at what is happening in the scene, might want to connect with the story. So you can see how he has used the lines in creating this composition to reflect the storyline. This is use of hatching technique of the great Saint Paramacharya. This was done in 1980s. And the work was created from a reference photograph. And you can see how a line that is in the same direction, that goes in the same direction, creates the tonal value and creates the suggestion of this shape. And this is one of Appa's favorite work of Kanchi Paramacharya. And he always tried to do something different every time. And he insisted that he needs to keep refining what he's doing or give something new to the viewers. So that's what will keep them interested to see what is new. So every time, every work will be very, very different. Let's look at this pen and ink. So we are looking at a series of pen and ink works that was done at different times. And I'm sure you will be able to identify how the initial lines were to something that was done in 2003. This was for Story of India, the Chandragupta Maurya story. If you look at this, the black and white pen and ink work reflects clear evolution of the visual language, revealing the greater confidence and conceptual depth. So the composition here moves beyond restraint into a more daring and spatial arrangement. The composition moves, if you actually see, the elements are intentionally displaced, orbiting the central scene rather than conforming to a predictable structure. And this gives an active process of visual discovery. The more you look into the drawing, you can figure out what is happening in the background and the story related to it. So if you actually look at this particular narrative, this is a story of Chandragupta Maurya as a young boy learning to eat from the edges of hot food. So the mother is actually explaining it to him. And this learning becomes a powerful metaphor. And the artist, Appa has treated it with sensitivity and foresight, and the central figures are rendered with clarity, yet they do not dominate the entire pictorial space. Instead, surrounding elements, perhaps suggestive forms, and the motifs and the fragmented scenes are dispersed, and they echo this particular lesson that was being taught. So the mark making remains varied and controlled, but there is noticeable boldness in how areas of density and emptiness are handled. This is something amazing personally for me. Every time I look at Appa's work, the way he has used the white space around to balance what he's trying to portray is very, very interesting. And sometimes you will find other works that will come later that I don't have to explain at all. So what else can I say about this? So, the simple act of the mother guiding her child transforms into a foundational principle for the warfare. That's what this story is about. And I have another example of, this is much later, that was done for Shloka 7 of Bhagavad Gita. And you can see how he has used just the lines, the pen and ink, to create the poetic meaning of this chapter. This is one of my favorite works. So if you actually see, the shapes are creating the image through tonal value, and it is absolutely impressive. Here, the work relies on expressive brushstrokes. If you actually look, there is no clear line that defines the form. It is just the shapes that is making the form. So it's actually a significant, confident shift, toward painterly abstraction. So this is much later. This is in 90s, I think. And the forms of Guru-Shishya relationship emerge through the placement and weight of these shapes and the way they are placed. There is so much that we can talk about, but the simplicity of the brush stroke itself, painting, negative painting sort of effect that you have in this particular work. I'm going to show one of an earlier work. This one is collage that was done in 1980s. So Appa kept reinventing himself in terms of trying to approach something. Like this was something very interesting for myself and my sister because we both are into practically doing a lot of artwork, or we went through formal training at a university level. So when we were about to master any particular, so every semester had like one medium, and we will have to learn to practice that medium. But Appa never had that much amount of time to refine the medium or the use of the medium that long. So he had a very limited time, and he needed to master that medium and then present it in a nice way. So when we were actually growing up, we don't remember Appa doing anything else other than in his studio. So it feels like if we needed anything, that's the only place we can find Appa. The other time he'll just come to eat and then goes back. How many family events or outside events, we've never had this thing. But that focus was actually needed for him to be able to give something that actually connected with the audience, that he enjoyed. And he took so much of time. Sometimes when people will come and wait for him, wait to collect the artwork and go, those days, no email. So people will come and wait in our living room to collect the artwork and go. And when we used to go and tell him that this person has come, that person, when we look at the work, for us, it will feel like, oh, it's already completed. What is he doing? But he'll be doing one touch up here, one touch up there, and it'll go on for hours. But you see the weight of that when I'm actually looking at a lot of works now. Now I'm able to understand. Until that satisfaction came for Appa, he would not compromise. He will never, he will say, he will tell us, first, you should be happy with what you do, and then others will enjoy that. You have to enjoy what you do. That is very, very, and this, I think it's literally a childish nature, or that curiosity, or that excitement when you're doing something, you'll forget everything else. And that is the state in which Appa does. That is why I like that quote, where art is in, you have to be in that wonderful space to create art. The more and more I look at this, I can't stop reflecting on that particular quote that I started with. All right, let's look at another one. So it is very interesting actually to see that how Appa chose various mediums to suit the time it was being published. So whatever media he chose has to work with the production process, so that the tones or the variety that is shown on a mark will come through. So a lot of earlier works from 70s close to 80s, because the process was block making, and it was very difficult to get that different tonal value like how we do today. So this particular work that you see here is a short story about a photographer. It's very interesting. The minute you look at this, you already know it's something to do with the photographer. You have the photographer right in the center taking a picture of you, the viewer, and then I really love the fact that he suggested the idea of the film roll in the back and the story. And the fact that he was able to use the graphite or the charcoal mark with this amount of tonal value was because the process changed in 1980s. So it became easier for you to show the effect. So he was very, very careful in deciding what to pick and how to show it. This is another powerful work that it's a very simple piece, but to me it makes the way he has balanced so it's basically the scale and the tonal contrast to depict the hero's introspective thoughts. So the heroine's face here dominates the composition, and it is symbolizing the hero's inner world, while the hero restrained tones, like he's completely wide. The number of lines to define him is very less compared to the heroine. But overall, the composition powerfully conveys the yearning and using of the tonal sensitivity and spatial hierarchy to transform this simple scene into a psychological landscape. So the way he handled the concept or the medium to push the boundaries of illustrate, to push the boundary of what an illustration can do to people. There has been so many people who have come and told me about, oh, they've tried to draw from Appa's work, or because of looking at Appa's work, they've started a career in art, and they started loving what this is all about. So it is amazing how a small thing like this can affect Appa. That is only possible because he enjoyed every bit of the work that he did. And look at this daring perspective to show the movement, the lines, and the speed. And the outcome, the production will have this effect. And he chose that during that time. This particular piece here is a Conte crayon sketch. It is very quiet, contemplative, in terms of this lone woman walking away from us. So she's gently receding into the space of paper. The composition is intentionally minimal, with a single banyan tree suggested on the left, offering just enough context without anchoring the scene too firmly. And then you have the expansive white space in the foreground that acts as a subtle invitation and drawing the viewer inward along the same path as the figure takes. So the delicate attention to the muddy track beneath her feet, it suggests the detail that contrasts with the otherwise sparse setting. So with the minimal approach of lines and the way the elements are composed here, it gives the complete feel of how you are actually walking with this person into the work. So next I'm going to move into some of Appa's watercolor works. So let's look at this one. So I think as a family, for all my sister and my brother, or at least my sister and me, we are partial to watercolors because we love watercolors because of what we saw, how Appa created these works. And the magic of the color mixing and the sound of the water clinking, it's all too exciting for us. If you look at this, even if it was used as an illustration for a short story, he pushed the boundaries of what an illustration could actually give. So he has shown he's brought the colors out of from the costume out, and then you can see the effects of the salt technique on watercolors, and a beautiful composition. And I feel that he tried to push the boundaries of illustration to give a feel of painting, which reached like large scale people. I think that was the magic. So this is another one, a night mood, a romantic scene in a blue toned paper. So this is a gouache, it's a water-based medium where he has used a blue paper and then used that as a mid-tone to create depth and then highlights. So I would like to talk about this particular piece. This is one of my favorite works of watercolors of his. So at first glance, we see a mother and child walking forward. This is also similar to that other painting in terms of direction of the painting. Into what seems like it's like a dust storm, and the mother and the son are walking in. And you see how the care of the mother, she's protecting the son's head because the dust is flowing around and she's covering the head with the sari. And it feels like a suspended moment in time. If you look closely, the lines around, it's not overly descriptive. It is restrained and almost softened, and the line does not dominate, and it allows the atmosphere to take over figures and defines enough to remain present and not too rigid. So, compositionally, the figures are placed moving into space, not out of it. Even though the characters are facing backwards, the forward movement into the storm is very clear. And the space ahead feels uncertain because we don't know how it's going to be on the other end. The leaves blowing across the frame create this diagonal motion and tension, and we are not observing them, but we are almost walking with them into this shifting landscape. So the use of watercolor here is very crucial because the medium itself allows for fluidity and unpredictability. The dust storm is not sharply defined, but the fleeting brush strokes, the washes and bleeding edges define the effect of the environment here. Atmospheric effect that comes here. The palette, if you have a look, it's limited palette with tones of brown and green, the dryness of the land and the dust and the memory and then the hints of green, a hint at life. And, there's a lot of conscious decision that has gone behind creating this piece. This is one of my favorite ones. And you can have a look at other watercolor works that he has done. The choice to place various elements in a composition, especially for stories like this, and to bring out the feeling of this young boy whose mother is getting married for the second time, and the way the colors are treated in the back. I feel like we can get lost in any one painting for a long time. Now, this is a beautiful use of positive and negative space. A lot of times, when you visit different places, you get to see certain things, and you will never get that lighting again. Even if you want to take a picture of it later, at that moment, your mind captures that. And I feel a lot of times that experience or the memory that reminds you of certain aspect of the highlight hitting, everything comes together at one point. I think this particular piece has that effect. Appa loved to travel a lot. And actually, he started traveling only in after 98. So this was his first journey to Kailash, Mount Kailash, and he created amazing watercolor works, very fluid and very suggestive and bold brush strokes. And this particular one was for a historical story. I think when I look at this now, a lot of this is actually inspired by Tata's works. If you look at in terms of composition, the placement of various objects like the lamp on the left, but the use of color and the use of this medium watercolor to give this effect, and the connection, direction of the eyesight between who is looking where, and the line of gaze travels around, and the very suggestive brushstrokes to give idea of the amount of people seated in the background. All of this actually brings a very nice, something to learn from and something to look and observe, and which reflects which connects with the story as well. So I'm just going to browse through some of the works. How are we doing with time, Gauriji? All right, I'll go ahead.
On time, don't worry.
Okay. All right. So here we have, this is also from the Kailash Yatra studies, where you have this Tibetan woman carrying a child. Okay, this one. This is something absolutely amazing. This painting stands out for its unconventional use of thick, assertive lines to construct the image. Moving away from delicate washes, typically associated with the medium. These bold lines, just infused with a blend of vibrant colors, merge and overlap to form the figure of the couple. I think Appa did this instinctively without using any pencil marks or anything. He just directly went on. And sometimes when he's in that inspired mode, I feel like, today when we do any small thing, we have all the setup with the phone camera, we take and then we post it on Instagram. But there are a lot of this magic that I feel should be captured. And if I ask Appa to recreate this, I don't think he will be able to do the same thing. I think that's that time when that has to happen. It happened. It's that sort of a work. So the way the vibrant colors merge and overlap to form the figures of the couple, allowing the boundaries between them to soften and interconnect. And I think this was actually used for some sort of a poem or something. I'm not sure. Maybe Appa can explain later. Where you can see the color blending with the lines, it kind of symbolizes the connection between the two figures, suggesting a shared emotional and experiential space. This fusion of colors represent a colorful life binding them together, balancing individuality and unity. I feel it's a brilliant use of negative and positive spaces. This is also one of my favorite. It feels like I'm a big fangirl, of course, for my father. Here is I think this is a breathtaking monument. And when Appa was at this spot, he says that, I love to go and paint Plein. And Appa insists that you have to pick the right angle to tell the story about anything that you see, right? So when he said that when he chose this particular angle, he was like walking up the hill and he was trying to figure out which would be the best angle to capture. And then when he came at one point, the sunlight just hit to make the temple glow like, gold. And he said this was just the right spot because it gives an idea that this particular monument is actually a rock cut temple. So you can see how the mountain is behind, and then you can see the rock cut with the shadows on the other edge. And you can also see how the view of the whole magnanimous, monument is actually, captured in this one. And I think Appa loved watercolors too. He did so many wonderful pieces. And this is another angle, same Ellora, but how he boldly shows the contrast between the highlight or the sunlight hitting and the dark shadows, and the use of different colors, like one violet and then suddenly one yellow and brown, and allowing the unpredictability of the watercolor to give its magic, especially with the effects that you see on the bottom here on the right. Then let's now look at some of his portraits. So Appa says, portrait is not only about catching the resemblance. The painting should carry the innate nature of the person, the feeling, the character of the person. There should be life. If you look at this beautiful picture of Mother Teresa and the child crying, you can actually feel the pain of the child. And that pain is reflecting in the eyes of Mother Teresa. And I can go on continue to talk about the brushstrokes and suggestive nature of like allowing the colors to do the work. And like everyone says, like watercolor paints itself, there are more that you might have already seen. So here you see a lot of other techniques that he used to do portraits. So you have the line art, and then you have the watercolors here on the bottom left with Paramacharya, because he's the main character, he's in color, and everyone else in the background is monotone. And you have, there's a Prismacolor artwork of Ilayaraja sir on the back, and then dry pastel of Mahatma Gandhi, and then more watercolor uh, options, figures here. The, what do you call, the confidence of Swami Vivekananda, or the humorous nature of this actor, and Sujata's, the direct gaze. It is like confronting you, looking at you, and how he had challenging ideas to convey. So I think in every portrait that he has done more than 500 portraits of eminent people, and each portrait will definitely have their their self in that. It will live in that. The next one here is also one of my favorite, where he has actually mixed watercolors and pastel, and to give the effect of the music that this great Srinivas gave. Next, let's look at some of the works that he did for himself. This particular piece. It was a pastel study of a girl. This picture Appa had actually taken when he was in college, probably 18, 19 years old. He took this picture to do a painting, but he has attempted to do different versions of it. But this one that was done in 2004, the pastel work here, it shows the refined economy of mark making, where the minimal strokes are used with great sensitivity to suggest the form, the light, and the narrative. And you see this young girl carrying the large pot of water, and it's rendered with just enough detail to establish the posture and the movement, and allowing the viewer to complete the image through suggestion rather than description, or rather than completing everything. So the use of restrained color in the clothing is very, very effective, and each stroke serves dual purpose. It both indicates the local color and the play of light and shadow, and the highlights seem to emerge effortlessly, while the darker accents anchor the form, giving it quiet dimensionality without overworking the surface. I feel like as Appa evolved, he is moving towards minimalism in terms of using less lines, and less is more, he always says. Sometimes, it's true. I'll come back to such works later. Let's look at some of the devotional pieces that he has done. I think painting devotional or painting gods or Hindu gods, there is always something that we need to be aware. I think all artists of the past have had that, our sculptures look, it doesn't have the human familiarity, but it has a sacred presence with that. And to bring that with the connection to the person who is looking at it is the most important thing, Appa will say. So if you look at the figures here, you have idealized proportions, and you have refined gestures, while you are still able to relate to them. The child, the way Ganesha's head tilts on the side, and and the way the young Muruga sits on his mother's lap. And even though we have sculptures and from centuries old temples, there is something that he made it his own style, and that actually stands out here. Let's look at this one. So if you actually, this is much more recent work, and the way he started using computers from 98, that was the first time he started, that was the first year he bought the computer, and then he has learned how to integrate the new technology into his work. So any new thing that comes, any new art material or any new media that comes, he is very curious to learn that and adapt into his work. And you see a lot of that in much later. So let's have a look. Oh, this one. This is a dry pastel work that explores the relationship between the sound and the movement. So using suggestive forms and vibrant colors, it evokes the experience of the sound and how it translates into action behind, when you see how Shiva is dancing. So it features the sound of Damaru and Shiva's dance together. And like I said earlier, how as his style evolved, he moved towards minimal lines, or he moved, coming out of defining everything. So this is, I think this one is acrylic on canvas. So every few years he has always, tried to reinvent his own identity, his own style. It changes, it becomes more fluid. And this particular piece, which he did after 30 years of being in the field, he's slowly trying to move towards abstraction and, towards free-flowing lines, actually. So this particular, the way the stillness of the meditating Shiva here contrasts with the dynamic swirling, energy that surrounds the space, that calmness against this storm that is happening, but still there is still the sense of calmness that actually comes through this particular external, within the external movement. You have this particular work, and if you actually look at this, I did speak about how he started using a computer as he did not use it just as a technical tool, but as a curatorial device, allowing different stylistic phases. If you actually look at this particular composition, he has used a lot of earlier works that he has done, and he's put it all together in one. And like a collage, like how you structure different parts of it, it became easier for him to do it on the computer, and he got even better effect. The whole story of Rajaraja Chola constructing the temple of Tanjavur, Brihadishwara temple. So this whole piece is shaped by time and labor and vision and collective effort. The whole thing comes together as one piece of work. And this is another composition also using computer graphics to combine the various artworks together to create a composition. So this one, I'm going back in time again. It's not a linear process that we have. We are looking into this, but the reason why I put this image here is because I want to show how how he redefined from old to new, depending on various subjects that he handled. So this is a historical collection of works, and it's a combination of airbrush colorings and watercolors, where you can see the contrast of manual work. So earlier you saw the computer graphic that combines, and here you see this is also put together using computer, but you can see how a lot of airbrush technique was used. A lot of the painting in this left-hand side used the airbrushing technique, and it was laborious. And I remember when we were young, this was, I think, sometime in 80s, late 80s or early 90s, the minute we hear the sound of motor running, we know that Appa is using the airbrush, and we will rush to see how the effect of that comes out. And we will all, so our job was to switch on and off the compressor, and we will be looking with our jaws open to see how the effect of the color with the masking and the how the airbrush spread the colors. As a child, it was amazing to see. And with that particular time when the colors started printing in all the inside pages of the journals, it gave beautiful, very bright, colorful, contrasting colors, unimaginable combinations that we felt that it came through during that time. So this is another work, also early 90s, of this is the Pallava construction and the composition. And I think this Appa has mentioned that he used a reference picture that Tata had taken when he went to Mahabalipuram. So it was a completely different view of the Rathas. And then coming to Velpari. So earlier, historical, you saw a particular style, and this one is the very latest. I think it's this one, just a few years ago, the story we finished. And you can see how his style has evolved in terms of lines or the composition. And Appa felt like this particular piece of work that he did, almost 80% of the artworks that he created, he loved each and every piece. And it was very hard to delete a lot of slides for the presentation's sake, given the time restraints, but we couldn't decide what to add and what to remove. But this particular one, a lot of things, if you look at the mountain on the back, you can see the highlight of the sun setting, the golden hour highlight on the mountain. And when Appa had gone to Yosemite, and he said that he literally saw that, but he hasn't seen himself, but he has, seen various references or photographed this with that. And the magic of looking at that, live after you have actually painted something was really great. Look at this particular one. So when you compare it with the earlier illustration that was done in early 90s or 80s, if you look at the lines, you see how minimal it is becoming, and more of, the effect or the atmospheric effect is shown in the background, like a whole, the troop is walking and the dust that is raising is going up, and, the suggestiveness of the background, while with minimal strokes showing the various elephants in the back and just giving importance to the main foreground. And it is, I think it's just, I feel sometimes we can't say too much about anything. We have to allow ourselves to look at the paintings and enjoy that. So, so far, we have explored various aspects of Ma.Se's work, examining both his artistic approach and thematic focus. We began by looking at his signature style and technique and paying attention to his distinctive line quality and the way he constructs his compositions. We also considered the mediums he's employed, which contribute significantly to the character of his work. We saw how Maniam Selven's art engages with history, mythology, social themes, and devotional subjects, reflecting a deep connection to cultural narratives. We saw how he balances storytelling with aesthetic embellishment. From the moment his father passed holding his hands and took his final breath, my father, Maniam Selven, assumed the responsibility of continuing his father's aspirations and dreams. I'm not sure if he fully understood the weight of that responsibility at that time, but he has pushed boundaries. He accepted change. He explored new age tools. He brought new visual ideas to life. he inspired us not just through his work, but through his courage to try, to evolve, and his values that he stood for. He represented women with dignity and respect, and setting a standard that he believed in. He always said that art we create shouldn't pervert the reader's mind. He was very clear about his moral responsibilities in his art portrayal and was very much aware of the things he would never compromise. He never painted anything gory or any something that would create, anything that is. Today the visual media has changed so much, but he stood for the things that he believed in. He reinvented himself again and again, embracing technology, staying relevant, and showing us growth never stops. He doesn't lead the way, but he defines it, and he stands ahead of all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shubha. That was really, really, really amazing. And really amazing because Ma.Se is such an amazing artist. And we all know about his work, but it was really nice to see it set out like that, describing the way the trajectory has evolved and the way his work has moved. It's really very, very nice. We'll now have our Rangaratnam Gopu from Tamil Heritage Trust to moderate the question answer session. Gopu, you can take over.
Hi.
Before that, Shubha, do you want your father to say a few words? I think you're
Yes,
muted.
definitely. I think Appa needs to say something. I was just thinking.
Yeah, maybe he can. Gopu, shall we ask sir to talk and then we'll do the question answer session?
Yeah, hello. நீங்க ப்ரொசீட் பண்ணுங்க பிகாஸ் அது முடிஞ்சிட்டோம் அதுக்கப்புறம் லாஸ்ட்ல நான் பேசுறேன்.
Yeah, okay. Okay, fine. Okay, Gopu.
Okay, Subhashini, I think this talk and your presentation basically, you have triggered enormous nostalgia and fond memories among all the listeners, and absolute delight not just at familiar pictures but also at several unseen pictures. For some of them, they are seeing some of these pictures for the first time because I think the comment section is full of people who remember the Deepavali Malars or Kalki or Vigadan or all the magazines and others, and other people who they're just pouring it nostalgic. So I will forward some of the I'll present some of the questions that they have asked you. Srikanth asks, Subhashini Akka, what is one important lesson you learned from Ma.Se sir as an artist that you'd love to share with other artists?
It is, I think one important lesson is you should paint for anything, you should create work, anything for yourself first. It is not about other people appreciating. In this day and age, like when I am actually trying to promote my art, instantly when I make something, I just want to shoot it and then share it in social media to show something's happening. And that's how the world has changed. But there should be some work that everybody should do just for yourself. And you don't have to show other people, you don't have to get recognition or acknowledgement from anybody else, but you need to know what is your true worth, and that you have to keep pushing higher. If you achieved something, yes, now you've come to this point. Now, what is next? What is next? I think, even until today, I think, a small thing that I will find in the art shop. And if I tell Appa, oh, can you get one for me? He wants to try something. And that curiosity is also another thing. I think personal satisfaction, no matter what other people say, are you happy? Second, be curious. I think these two are the ones.
Wonderful. I'll share a comment. We'll wait for more questions to come through. I think this is from artist Keshav. It says Keshav Venkatraghavan. Wonderful selection of works and accurate way of description. Kudos to Subhashini. Respects to Ma.Se. It's good to see your focus on his various techniques and media he used and how he adapted to technology so easily, reinventing himself all the time. And so let me ask a question of mine. I saw that Chandragupta Maurya picture. I thought if Sangam literature, Agam and Puram, if both have to be shown in one picture, that is the picture. You have a mother and a son, very affectionately the mother, and the son attentively listening to the mother, and in the background you have this imperial majesty of the Maurya army and all that. And I thought that was what a composition, what genius. I was just thrilled by that. Maniam sir, Ma.Se sir, you have any comment on that?
அதாவது ஏன்னா ஒரு ஒரு ஒர்க்கும் எனக்கு வந்து ஃப்ளோஸ் வந்து அந்த சப்ஜெக்ட் உள்ள வாங்கணுன்னே எங்க ஃபாதர் சொல்லுவார், கதை படிக்கும் போதே அந்த விஷுவல் நம்ம முன்னாடி எல்லாம் தோன்றோம்னு சொல்லுவாங்க. அந்த மாதிரி அந்த விஷுவல் படிக்கும் போதே எனக்கு அந்த கண்டென்ட் போடும்போது எனக்கு அந்த தாட்ஸ் வந்தது. ஆனா அது மாத்திரம் இல்லை, அதுக்கு ஹார்டா நான் ஒர்க் பண்ண வேண்டியிருந்தது. ஏன்னா என்னுடைய போர்ஷன் ஆஸ் எ இல்லஸ்ட்ரேட்டர் எல்லா அரிதாரமும் நான் பூசி ஆகணும். நான் வெரைட்டி ஆஃப் ஒரு அப்படி வரும்போது அந்த ஸ்டடீஸ் ஹிஸ்ட்ரின்னு வரும்போது அந்த அந்த பீரியட் ஆஃப் கல்ச்சரில் ஸ்டடி பண்ணி அதுக்கப்புறம் அதை நான் லைனாக கட் பண்ணி அந்த அந்த இன்வால்மெண்ட் தான் போகும்போது ஒரு ஊத்துலேருந்து ஒரு பெரிய கங்கை மாதிரி வர ஒரு இது மாதிரி அந்த பிரவாகம் அது எப்படி தானாக வந்து தான் அமையறதா நினைக்கிறேன். பட் அந்த டைமில் ஒரு டைமும் அந்த டெக்னிக்கில் அந்த ஃபார்மு தானாக வந்து உட்கார்றதான் நினைக்கிறது நான். ஏன்னா ஆனால் அதுக்கு எஃபர்ட் எடுக்கிறேன். ஐ ஸ்வெட் இல்லாமல் இல்லை. ஆனால் அது அமையும் போது அந்த லைன்ஸ் அந்த ஒரு பேட்டர்ன் ஆஃப் இந்த ஸ்டோரி ஆஃப் இந்தியா பண்ணும்போது நியர்லி 19 ட்ராயிங்ஸ் பண்ணேன். சேம் ஸ்டைல் அந்த டைப்பில். ஸோ அந்த சேம் ஸ்டைல்னா ஒரு பார்ட் அந்தந்த போர்ஷன் அந்தந்த கேரக்டர் அந்தந்த பீரியட் என்ன கொடுக்கணுமோ அதை கொடுக்குறேன் நான். ஸோ அந்த மாதிரி ஒரு ஃப்ளோஸ் ஆட்டோமேட்டிக்காக வந்து எனக்கே இப்போ நான் மலைச்சு நான் பார்க்குறேன். நீங்கள் கேட்குற கேள்வி மாதிரி எனக்குள்ளேயே நான் ஒரு கேட்டுக்கிறேன், இது எப்படி வந்தது அப்படின்ட்டு. ரியலி அது வந்து இட்ஸ் ஆல் மாதா பிதா குரு தெய்வமா அதை தான் நினைக்கிறேன் இன்னைக்கு. அது வந்து ஏன்னா எனக்கு அப்பா வந்து எல்லாத்தையும் டைரக்டாகவும் சொன்னார். ஒரு வருஷம் மௌனமாகவும் குருவாகவும் இன்னி வரைக்கும் என் கூடயே இருக்கார் அப்படின்றது தான் நான் நினைக்கிறேன். ஸோ அதுதான் என்னை இயக்கிட்டு இருக்கு.
Fantastic. Subhashini, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I am just in awe every time I listen to him. It comes with such great force. To digest it takes time. Yeah.
So that's something, actually, I felt that on a personal level. When you read a story and you see the illustration, the reader or the Rasika doesn't necessarily know art. We have not done stencils or watercolors or anything. So we are not looking at the technique of, we have no idea what the why you have, what composition is, even fundamentally something like that, or, why a pencil sketch versus an oil or a watercolor is chosen, why these scenes are chosen, these scenes are not chosen. And to me personally, that Ellora Kailasanatha painting, oh my God, that showed me, first time I wondered. So this is the question I will ask. I'll make a quick comment and then I'll come to the question. That painting captures the essence of the temple in a way no photograph ever can, no film shot ever can. It is a fantastic capture of that Kailasanatha temple in Ellora. So that brings us to a question. The early artists before the photography era didn't have any competition. Now, not only have you lived through the black and white and then the color photographies era, you have film, then you have television, and now you have all these internet and social media and graphics. How do you, keep your balance or sense of sense of art. You're just after all that just doing pencil sketch or watercolor. How do you get that? How do you keep that focus and say, okay, I'm still going to depict that? Where does it come from?
For me, this one.
I think you should.
Oh my God. இது இங்கதான் ஆபத்தே தோன்றுது. ஏன்னா பிகாஸ் எனக்கு எப்படின்னா இதெல்லாம் நானா போய் வலையில சிக்கிப்பேன் நான் அந்த ஒரு ஒர்க் பண்ணணும். ஏன்னா இது ஒரு டூருக்கு இன்ஃபேக்ட் நான் போகும்போது தான் நான் ஃபர்ஸ்ட் காலேஜ் டூர்ல போனேன், அதை பார்த்தேன். அப்போ இருந்த ஒரு நாலேஜுக்கு நான் ஃபோட்டோகிராஃபி பண்ணிட்டு வந்து அதை பண்ணணும்னு ஆசைப்பட்டேன், பண்ண முடியல. அதுக்கப்புறம் செகண்ட் டைம் போனேன் நான் அந்த கைலாசநாதர் கோவில் மற்றும் பிகாஸ் ஆஃப்டர் கைலாஷ் போன அப்புறம் நான் போகும்போது இதை எப்படி கேப்சர் பண்ணணும் அப்படின்ட்டு ரொம்ப அங்கே கொஞ்சம் ஸ்டடி பண்ணேன் ஆன் தி ஸ்பாட்டில். ஆனால் அது இட் வாண்ட் ஹெல்ப் பிகாஸ் ஷார்ட் டைமில் முடிக்க முடியாது. ஸோ ஒன்லி பேசிக் கீ ட்ராயிங் மாதிரி ஒரு ஃபார்ம் பண்ணிப்பேன். அதுக்கு முன்னாடி அந்த ஸ்டடி பண்ணுறதுக்கு போகிறதுக்கு முன்னாடி போன எக்ஸ்பீரியன்ஸ்னால இதை கேதர் பண்ணிட்டு இது இன்ஃபேக்ட் இப்போ சுபாஷினி அதை எக்ஸ்பிளைன் பண்ண முதல்ல இது மாதிரி ஒரு ஆங்கிளும் முதல்ல ஃபுல்லாக பார்த்துட்டு இந்த இதுக்கு போகும்போது நான் லாஸ்ட் டைம் போகும்போது நானும் ஒய்ஃபும் தான் அங்கே ஆர்டிஸ்டை விட அங்கே அதை எடுத்து பண்ணணுன்ற ஒரு நோக்கத்தில் போனாலும் கூட அங்கே எனக்கு வந்து அந்த சிற்பிகளும் அந்த ஆர்கிடெக்டும் அரசனை தான் சொல்றோம் ராஷ்டிரகூட மன்னர்கள் அப்படின்னு. ஆனால் எத்தனை 1000 மக்கள் ஒர்க் பண்ணியிருப்பாங்களோ அந்த எடுத்து அந்த குடவரை கோவிலுக்கு அப்படின்னு பார்க்கும்போது எனக்கு அப்படியே ஸ்டன் ஆகிடும். ஒரு பிளானோ ஒரு இதோ ஆர்கிடெக்ட் என்ன ஒரு அதாவது கட்டடக்கலையில் ஸ்ட்ரக்சரல் இன்ஜினியரிங் பண்ணுற மாதிரியே குடவரை கோயிலில் அந்த மாதிரி ஒரு ஃபார்மை நான் ஃபஸ்ட்டு டைம் அசந்து போய் பார்த்துருக்கேன் அந்த கேரளா. அப்படி பார்க்கும்போது இது எப்படியாவது இதை நம்ம வந்து உள்குள்ள ஃபோட்டோகிராஃபிஸ்லாம் எடுத்து இது பண்ணணுன்ட்டு 4 ஷாட் போட்டிருக்கேன். அதில் ஒரு ஷேடோ பண்ணும்போது இந்த ஒரு கோயிலை ஒட்டுமொத்தமாக நான் காமிக்கணும்னு என்ன பண்ணலான்னு சொல்லிட்டு அதுக்கு கிட்டத்தட்ட 2-3 வாட்டி டேர்ன் பண்ணி போயிட்டு வந்து பார்த்து வந்து இந்த ஆங்கிள் நல்லா இருக்கா இந்த ஆங்கிள் இருக்கா அப்படியே அப்புறம் மேலே ஃபுல்லாக ஒரு ரவுண்டு பிரகாரம் மேலே மவுண்டன் போய் ஒரு ஃபைட் பார்க்கும்போது அந்த டைமில் ஈவினிங் லைட்டிங்கில் இந்த கரெக்டாக அந்த ரிமோஸ் நமக்காக லைட்டிங் பண்ண ஒரு நேச்சர். அது ஒரு ஃபோட்டோகிராஃபி எடுக்கணும்னா நமக்கு லைட்டிங் இஸ் வெரி இம்பார்ட்டன்ட். அந்த லைட்டிங் ஷேடு அந்த டெப்த்து கிடைக்கணும். அந்த டெப்த்து அந்த புடவரை எஃபெக்ட்டுக்கும் அதுக்கும். அப்புறம் இதில் வந்து கலர்ஃபுல்லாக பண்ண கொஞ்சம் மோனோக்ரோமாவும் இருக்கணும், அது கலர்ஃபுல்லாகவும் காமிக்கணும். லிமிட்டட் பேலட்டில் அதை வந்து நான் ஒர்க் பண்ணேன். இந்த ட்ராயிங் பண்ணும்போது 3 ஸ்கெட்சில் காமிக்கணும்னு இருந்தேன். டைம் ஷார்ட்னால நாங்கள் ட்ராப் இட் அந்த முதல் கீ ட்ராயிங் ஸ்கெச்சஸ் அண்ட் தென் லைன் அண்ட் தென் இதுன்ட்டு அந்த மாதிரி. இதில் மொத்தம் எதுக்காக நான் இவ்வளோ சொல்கிறேன்னா எல்லாத்தையும் பார்த்துட்டு வந்து ஸ்டன் ஆகி நான் உள்ள போய் கர்ப்பகிரகத்துக்கு நமஸ்காரம் பண்ணேன். நானும் ஒய்ஃபும் வெளியில் நேராக வந்து அந்த கோவிலுக்கு வெளியில் வந்து மொத்தமாக அது பண்ண சிற்பிகளுக்கும் இவங்களுக்கும் சேர்த்து நான் நமஸ்காரம் பண்ணேன். ஏன்னா அந்த டெம்பிளுக்கே அந்த வெளியில் வந்து அது மாத்திரம் இல்லை, ஒரு சிற்பத்துக்கிட்ட போய் நின்று நான் ஏன்னா சிற்பே நான் பார்த்தது இல்லை, சிற்பமே நீ பார்த்துருப்ப இந்த சிற்பியை, ஏன்னா அவர் முடிக்கும் போது அவர் தானே உன்னை கண்ணை திறந்தார். அப்போ கண்ணு திறந்த உடனே நீ சிற்பியை தானே பார்த்துருப்பேன். அந்த திறந்த கண்களை நான் பார்க்குறேன் இப்போ அந்த சிற்பியை உன் கண்ணோட அப்படின்னு நினச்சி நான் சந்தோஷப்பட்டேன். ஸோ அந்த அந்த சிற்பியோட அந்த அந்த ஸ்கில், அதாவது வார்த்தையே இல்லை இதுக்கெல்லாம் சொல்றதுக்கெல்லாம். இதெல்லாம் சேர்ந்து எல்லாம் உள்ளுக்குள்ள போட்டதுனால வெளிப்பட்ட ஒரு வெளிப்பாடு தான் அதுன்னு நினைக்கிறேன்னா என்னுடைய படிப்பு. நேரம் எடுத்துக்கணும்.
இல்ல that was we are just very moved. Yeah, that kind of ஒரு 1000 வருஷத்துக்கு முன்னாடி இருக்கிற சிற்பியோட உங்க மனசோட அப்படி கம்யூனிகேட் பண்றீங்கன்னு சொல்றீங்க. அது வந்து ஒரு வெரி டச்சிங்.
No, only one artist can truly understand and appreciate another artist, and the hard labor that has gone behind evolving and creating that art,
So Srikanth, I think the same person is asking another question. Maniam Selven sir, is there one piece of your work that is especially close to your heart? Is there something that of your own artwork that is your favorite, especially close to your heart?
அப்படி சொல்ல முடியாது. எனக்கு வந்து என்னன்னா, ஏன்னா எல்லா குழந்தையுமே என் குழந்தைகள் தான். டோட்டலா. ஏன்னா இது அது அப்பப்போ அந்தந்த டைம்ல வெளிப்படுற இது இருக்கு இல்லைங்களா. இப்போ இவ்வளவு நாளா இன்னொருத்தருக்காக தான் நான் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கேன். நான் அந்த எஃபெக்ட் ஆனா எனக்காகவும் பண்றாங்க, என் மனசுக்காகவும் பண்றேன், என் திருப்திக்காகவும் பண்றேன். அது அப்பா சொல்வார், ஒரு ஒர்க்கு கொடுத்தா நீ கரெக்டா பண்ண கத்துக்கோ முதல்ல. அது நீ அந்த டைம் ஆப்பர்ச்சுனிட்டி கிடைக்கும் போது அந்த சந்தர்ப்ப அந்த ப்ரெசன்ஸை நீ என்ஜாய் பண்ணு. நாளைக்கு பண்ணிக்கலாம் மீதி இன்னொரு படம் வரும்போது அப்படின்னு நினைப்பேன். கொடுத்த படத்தை நீ ஒழுங்கா பண்ண கத்துக்கோ முதல்ல அப்படின்னு அந்த ஒழுங்கா பண்ண அவர் பண்ணது பொன்னியின் செல்வன்ல அன்னைக்கு 50 வருஷத்துக்கு 75 வருஷத்துக்கு முன்னாடி பண்ண பொன்னியின் செல்வன் இன்னைக்கு உயிர்ப்பா இருக்குன்னா அன்னைக்கு அவர் சின்சியரா பண்ணதுதான் ஹிஸ்டரியா இருக்கு. அந்த பிரசன்ஸ் தான் இன்னைக்கு ஹிஸ்டரியா இருக்குன்னு நினைக்கிறாங்க சரித்திரமும். அந்த மாதிரி எனக்கு ஒவ்வொரு படைப்பும் அதுல இன்வால்வ் ஆறேன் நான். ஆனா இன்னைக்கு நானே அதை பார்க்கும்போது அதை சந்தோஷமா என்ஜாய் பண்றேன். அன்னைக்கு அதை நான் ஸ்லிப் பண்ணி நான் பண்ணியிருந்தேன்னா எனக்கே பிடிச்சிருக்காது. அடுத்து அந்த படத்தை தூக்கி கண்ணை மறைச்சு வேண்டாம் நல்லாவே பண்ணல அப்படின்ட்டு. ஸோ ஒரு படமும் எனக்கு அந்த மாதிரி பிடிக்கும். ஆனா இப்ப நான் பண்றதுக்கு எனக்காக நான் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கேன். அது எப்போ வெளியில வரும்னு உங்களுக்கு எல்லாம் காமிக்கணும். ஏன்னா இன்னொருத்தராக பண்ண ஒர்க்கு இப்ப எனக்காக பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கேன். அந்த ஒர்க் வரும்போது பண்ணணும்னு ஆசை இருக்கு.
I feel, Srikanth, you heard directly from Appa the very most important lesson that is essential for artists. I forgot to mention that. The fact that anything that you do, you have to give your best. No matter what time constraints, no matter what, that has to be your best at that point. I think that is the most important lesson. And that's how even when we look at Appa's very earlier works, there is something about it. Every piece, from 79 onwards, every piece of work that he has created is enjoyable. There's something to learn from.
No, I also feel that I think not getting limited by the brief is the greatest thing that he has conveyed as an artist, that the brief is there in terms of what the story is or what you have to tell. And then his own insight and his vision comes into, and he kind of just, shapes up the whole brief, which is what then really elevates the whole art. What stops it from being just an illustration into fine art is his own aesthetic sensibilities, where he's enhancing the brief. He's not just conveying what his author is saying, but something much more than that. In fact, as Gopu said, many people may not understand that this is crayon or this is watercolor or something, but all of them can see that the drawing kind of jumps out of the pages at you, and just pulls you like that. And in fact, as I told him, he was laughing when I just started looking. In fact, I started reading Tamil stories because I looked at his art first. And then when I used to finish the story, I used to tell my father that for such a beautiful drawing, how can they write such a stupid story? And then my father used to say the story came first and the art came later. It's not the other way around. So, so that's the sort of, how he kind of really defined the brief and enhanced it to make it his own, which I think that's a lesson we all should learn in terms of not getting limited by our clients or the project brief, but adding our own bit to it to enhance it. Yeah.
Ramya asks, you use Parijatam, Pavadamalli flowers, even using computer graphics. Is there you have some affinity you have for this particular flower?
Not yet. அது நேச்சுரலா நம்மளை சுத்தி நடக்கிற விஷயம்தான் அப்சர்வ் பண்ணும்போது நமக்கு எல்லாமே அது நமக்கு கற்றுக் கொடுக்குது. எங்க வீட்டுல பழமல்லி எங்க வீட்டுல செடி பூக்கும். எங்க பாட்டி டெய்லி அதை மொத்தம் எடுத்து அதை கோத்து, அதை ரொம்ப அழகா இருக்கும். அந்த கோத்து 2 விதமாலாம் பூப்பாங்க, வேற விஷயம். பட் என்னன்னா, இதெல்லாம் என் மனசுக்குள்ள பதியும் போது நான் நாட் ஓன்லி பழமல்லி, நாகலிங்க புஷ்பம் அப்பா பண்ணியிருக்காரு தீபாவளி மலர்லாம். ஸோ இதெல்லாம் அந்த படிப்படியா அந்த லெவல் ஆஃப் அந்த என்ன சொல்றது, அந்த தொப்புள் கொடின்னு சொல்ற மாதிரி அது அப்படியே கண்டினியூ ஆகுது எனக்கு அந்த மைண்ட்ல. ஸோ அவர் அப்படி பண்ணும்போது சரி வாட்டர் கார் ஒரு வாட்டி நான் இன்ஃபேக்ட் பூக்களெல்லாம் நான் இப்போ ஸ்டடி பண்ணுவேன். ஃபோட்டோகிராஃபியும் எடுத்து அதை வாட்டர் கலராக பண்ணுவேன். நேச்சுரலா ஆன் தி ஸ்பாட்ல வச்சு அதை வச்சு வாட்டர் கலர் பண்ணுவேன். ஸோ ஒரு வாட்டி நான் ஒரு ரேப்பருக்கு சங்கு புஷ்பம் பண்ணேன். அப்பெல்லாம் நார்மல் இதுதான், வாட்டர் கலர்ல அந்த ஷேடோவோட பண்ணிடுவேன். அந்த லாசாராமமிர்தம் வந்து அந்த புக்குக்கு அந்த அவள்ன்ற ஒரு கதைக்காக ரேப்பரில் போடும்போது அவர் ஃபோனில் ஃபோனில் அவங்க அவர் மூலியமா எனக்கு மெசேஜ் வந்தது. அவருடைய போட்ட அந்த சங்கு புஷ்பத்தை எடுக்கலாம்னு தோணுது எனக்கு அந்த படத்துல இருந்து. அந்த அளவுக்கு அந்த ஒரு அந்த ரியலிஸ்டிக்காக அது பண்ணியிருக்காரு. அது எப்படி பண்ணார்? இப்போல்லாம் ட்ராப் ஷேடோலாம் இன்னைக்கெல்லாம் வந்தாச்சு. இன்னைக்கெல்லாம் ஃபோட்டோகிராஃபெல்லாம் நான் வந்து மேனுவலாக நான் பண்ணேன். எனக்கு ரொம்ப மேனுவலாக பண்ணுறது தான் பிடிக்கும். ஸோ அப்படிதான். அதே மாதிரி நான் வந்து எந்த சுவாமி படம் பண்ணாலும் அந்தந்த சுவாமிக்குரிய பூக்களை நான் வந்து நானே சூடி பார்த்துருக்கேன். என்னுடைய ரிலீஜியஸ் படத்துல நீங்க பார்க்கலாம். பெருமாளுக்கு என்ன இருக்கு, கிருஷ்ணருக்குன்னா பழமெல்லி, சிவனுக்குன்னா அந்த நாகலிங்க புஷ்பம், வேற பிரிஞ்சாவட்டை, இப்படி எல்லாம் அந்த. ஆனா சில டைம்ல நான் எடுத்த போட்டோகிராஃபிஸ் அப்படி யூஸ் பண்ணியிருக்கேன். இன்ஃபேக்ட் சில டைம்ல ஏன்னா அந்த 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 எக்ஸ்பெரிமெண்டல் பண்ணி பார்க்குறேன் நான். அதாவது ஒன்று கையில் ஒர்க் பண்ணுறோம், இதுவும் பண்ணுறோம். ஸோ இதை மாதிரி எல்லாத்துலேயுமே, அதாவது ஒரு போர்ஷன்லையும் ஈவன் வில்வத்துல இருந்து எல்லாம் கூட அது மாதிரி எல்லாத்தையும் எடுத்து பண்ணுறோம். ஸோ பழமலையிலிருந்து அந்த எல்லா பூக்களும் நான் சொல்லிட்டேன். தேங்க்யூ.
One thing I had a comment again about the picture of the Shankaracharya just standing alone. அது வந்து ஒரு கோயில்லையோ இல்லை ஒரு பெரிய பக்தி ரீதியாகவோ இல்லாம கொஞ்சம் ரொம்ப லௌகீகமா அவர் சும்மா ஏதோ நின்றுட்டு ஒரு பார்த்து ஏதோ சந்தோஷப்படுற மாதிரி ஒரு இட் வாஸ் a very unique picture. What was the inspiration for that?
இல்ல அது என்னன்னா அந்த கால் கிருஷ்ணர் மாதிரி கால் மாத்தி அவர் வச்சிருக்கிறது. ஏன்னா நான் பரமாச்சாரியர் வந்து அஃப்கோர்ஸ் பை சான்ஸ் இதெல்லாம் எப்படி நான் சர்க்கம்ஃபரன்ஸ் ராமகிருஷ்ண மேடம், சங்கர மேடம், இதெல்லாம் அந்த அப்பாவினால அப்பா கனெக்டட் இருந்தது. ஜெயசங்கரா பண்ணும்போது, அதுக்கப்புறம் இந்த மண்டபத்துக்கு அப்பாவோட டிசைன் தான் அதெல்லாம் பண்ணாங்கன்னு சொல்லி கேள்விப்படும்போது அப்பாவோட ஆக்டிவிட்டிஸ் ஆஃப் கலெக்ஷன்ஸ் எல்லாம் எங்க வீட்டில் இருக்கும். ஸோ அதில் ஒரு அவுட் ஆஃப் இந்த ஃபோட்டோ வந்து எனக்கு ரொம்ப பிடிச்சிருந்தது. நிற்கிற ஃபார்ம் ரொம்ப ரிலாக்ஸாக. அப்புறம் அன்பையாரோட பண்ணும்போது நம்பர் ஆஃப் பர்மாச்சரஸ் போர்ட்ரேட் பண்ணி அவர் மடியிலேயே வச்சு பார்த்தேன், ஆசீர்வாதம் பண்ணார். அது வேற விஷயம். பட் எதுக்கு சொல்ல வரேன்னா, இந்த ஃபோட்டோ ஒரு இதுக்காக ஒரு அவருடைய பர்த்டே நினைக்கிற அனுஷம், அதுக்காக ஒரு பூஜைக்காக இந்த லைன் ட்ராயிங் பண்ண. இதை பண்ணும்போது எப்பவுமே ரொம்ப டீட்டெயிலாக லைன் ட்ராயிங் பண்ணும்போது இது ரீப்ரொடக்ஷன் கரெக்டாக வரணுன்றது பாயிண்ட் இல்லை எனக்கு. அந்த பண்ணிட்டு அப்புறம் எப்படி பண்ணுறதுன்னு கொஞ்ச நேரம் மெடிடேஷன் மாதிரி பார்த்து லைனை கரெக்டாக கொஞ்சமாக அதில் ஃப்ளோ பண்ணேன். அது வந்து அது அவ்வளோ அற்புதமாக அமைஞ்சது. அது எனக்கு இன்னைக்கு கூட நான் போட சொன்னால் என்ன போட முடியாது, தெரியாதுன்னு நினைக்கிறேன் எனக்கு. ஸோ அந்த மாதிரி ஒரு லைன்ஸ் அந்த மேலே எதுக்கு சொல்ல வரேன்னா, இதே மாதிரி ரமணரும் பண்ணியிருக்காங்க. இந்த போர்ட்ரேட்டில் நீங்கள் க்ளோஸ்அப்பில் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா அந்த லைன் வில் பி அதுக்கு வந்து அந்த ஃபார்ம் கெடுக்காமே அது வந்தது. அது எப்படின்னு தெரியல. அவர் முகத்தெல்லாம் நான் தொட்டு பார்த்ததில்ல, பெரியவர் முகத்தை. ஆனால் என்னுடைய டிராயிங் மூலியமா அவங்களெல்லாம் தொடர்றதுக்கு ஒரு பாக்கியமாகவும் இதெல்லாம் பண்றதுக்கு ஒரு சந்தர்ப்பமும் கிடைச்சிருக்கும். ஜாய் தான், அதாவது அதோடைய பிளெண்டா நினைப்பேன் நான். எனக்கு ஒன்றும், அதாவது பண்ணும்போது அது டிராயிங் தான் அப்படின்றது. ஆனால் அது வரும்போது உண்மையிலேயே ஒரு எந்த நிலைன்னு சொல்றதுக்குலாம் எனக்கு விளக்கம் தெரியல. அண்ணன் வந்தது, அதாவது அந்த மகான்களே பர்மிட் பண்ணாதான் அதெல்லாம் வருமோன்னு நினைக்கிறேன் நான் அந்த டைம்ல. அப்படிதான் வந்திருக்கும்னு தான் நினைக்கிறேன். பட் எனக்கு ரொம்ப பிடிச்ச ஒரு அழகான ஒரு டிராயிங்.
One more question about composition and inspiration. Is there a difference in mindset between modern story versus historical fiction? When you say, take that story of that photographer comes there, he has a camera, is the center, and then the film scene, versus say Maniam Selven or World Party or any of the other stories. Is what is the mindset? Is there a difference in what you choose to depict?
No, that is very hard. When beginning timeல எனக்கு இன்ஃபேக்ட் அப்போ ஒரு பீரியட்ல எல்லாம் மேக்ஸின் நல்லா பூமிங் ஆகும்போது எல்லா விதமான திடீர் ஜோக் படம் போட கொடுப்பாங்க. எனக்கு எல்லாத்தையும் போய் அதுக்கு ஒரு ப்ராக்டிஸ் பண்ணுவேன் நான், ஜோக் படம் போடுறதுக்கு. ஏன்னா அதுலேயும் ஒரு யூனிக் ட்ரை பண்ணி பார்க்கணும் அப்படின்னு. அப்படி வரும்போது ஒரு வெரைட்டி, நான் ஒரு வாட்டி தீபாவளி மலருக்காக அந்த டைம்ல டே அண்ட் கத்தலேருந்து வந்து ஒரு சோஷியல் பிளேக்கு ஹிஸ்டாரிக்கல் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கேன், தீபாவளி மலர் கலர் ஒர்க்காக. அப்போ கண்ணெல்லாம் வந்து அதுக்கு தகுந்த மாதிரி பேட்டர்ன் ஹிஸ்டாரிக்கலுக்கு இருக்கிற ஒரு அந்த கண் அந்த பியூட்டி ஆஃப் இதுக்கு பண்ற இதை பண்ணிட்டு திடீர்னு அடுத்த 10 மணிக்குள்ள சாவி பத்திரிக்கையிலேருந்து ஆள் வருவாங்க, நார்மல் ஷார்ட் ஸ்டோரி பண்ணணும். அப்போ கண்ணு போடுறேன், கண்ணு போட ஹிஸ்டாரிக்கல் கண்ணு வருது எனக்கு. அந்த கதாநாயகே போடுற நார்மல் இதுக்கு வரும்போது அது அப்போ நான் வந்து ரொம்ப எனக்கு அப்போ அந்த மைண்ட் செட்டிங் இருக்கு பாருங்க, அது அப்படியே டோட்டலாக டிவி சேனல்ஸ் இருப்ப மாதிரி தான் என் மைண்டு. அந்த சேனலில் டக்குன்ட்டு அதை மாற்றி நம்ம அந்த டைமில் ஒர்க் பண்ணுவோன்ற. ஆனால் அந்த டைமில் தேர் வாஸ் வெரி அது ரொம்ப கஷ்டமான ஒரு பீரியட் அது அந்த டைமில். அந்த மாதிரி தான் சில டைமில் ஒன்னொன்றுத்துக்கும் இப்போ நீங்கள் கவிதைக்குன்னு சொல்லுங்க, கவிதைக்கு உண்டான தன்மை இருக்கணும், கட்டுரைக்கு உண்டான தன்மை இருக்கணும், சரித்திர காலத்தினுடைய காலகட்டத்தினுடைய தன்மை இருக்கணும். அது மட்டும் இல்லை, பீரியடுன்ட்டு இப்போ ஒரு 20 வருஷத்துக்கு முன்னாடி கல்கி கதைக்கு அரும்பம்புல் கல்கியோட 20 இயர்ஸ் பேக்ல இருக்க அந்த மாரிஸ் மைனர், அந்த ஓல்டு இதெல்லாம் பண்ணாங்க. ஆனா அன்னைக்கு நான் ரொம்ப கஷ்டப்பட்டு தேடினேன். ஆனா அதே டைம் இன்னைக்கு இருக்கிற ஒரு இதுல ரெஃபரன்ஸ் ஃபிங்கர் டிப்ல எடுக்கக்கூடிய கூகுள் கடவுள் பிரேசிமோன் சொன்ன மாதிரி அந்த கடவுள் கிட்ட கேட்டா எல்லாம் வந்துடும் போல இருக்கு. அந்த மாதிரி அப்படி ஒரு இது கிடைக்குது. பட் இது ஒன்னொன்னுத்துக்கும் அந்த சேனலை அப்போ நான் ஃபுல்லா அதுவாகவே மாறுறேன். நான் அந்த கேரக்டரா மாறும் போது அந்த ஃபீலிங் கரெக்டா. இப்போ வேள்பாரிக்கு பண்றேன்னா அந்த வேள்பாரியோட கேரக்டர் பண்ணேன்னா அந்த வேள்பாரியா போவேன். அந்த வாரியரா இருந்தேன்னா அந்த வாரியரா இருப்பேன். சின்ன பையனா இருந்து அந்த பாம்பு ஒரு வாட்டி பிடிச்சுட்டு இருப்பான்னா அந்த பாம்பு எப்படி நெளியும்ன்றது, இந்த பாம்பு அப்படியே ஸ்டிக் மாதிரி விரும்பி பிடிக்க முடியாது. அப்போ என்ன பயம், என்ன சூழல், இதெல்லாமே அந்த சிச்சுவேஷனை நான் கிரியேட் பண்ணி அங்கேயே நான் பார்த்து ஒரு கேரக்டருக்குள்ளேயும் நான் போய் நானா இருந்து அதை வெளிப்படுத்துறது தான் என்னுடைய அந்த டிராயிங்ல வருதுன்னு நினைக்கிறேன்.
சரி, எனக்கான one thing I wanted to say was whether it is historic stories or contemporary stories, what I really admire about your art is the negative space. You know when to stop and not overcrowd and have that so much of negative space which balances all the action which is happening in the foreground or whatever, like especially that Velpari scene where the elephant is coming in the forefront, or even in that photographer scene for that matter, there is a lot of negative space which balances, which I think is very, very important for an artist to know when to stop and let the other the negative. I mean, you need that negative space for you to focus on the positive. Ellame kacha and if you fill it up, then you can't.
There should be a gap for breathing.
Yeah, exactly.
The breathing gap.
Yeah, breathing gap. Yeah.
And the gap illana moochi erachi நம்ம மயக்கம் வந்துரும்.
Exactly. Yeah. So that I think is what is very, very, very good. Like
because
fantastic. The restraint and the capacity to say now stop and whatever.
Really, நீங்க சொல்ற மாதிரி அந்த ஸ்பேஸ் வந்து அக்கார்டிங் டு லேஅவுட் பேலன்ஸ் இருக்கு இல்லைங்களா. அந்த கமர்ஷியல் ஆர்டிஸ்டா இருக்கிற வரணும் அப்படின்றதுனால இந்த பேலன்சிங் ஆஃப் டிஸ்ட்ரிபியூஷன், இந்த வியூ, அந்த எதுவுமே அந்த பேலன்ஸோட நம்ம முதல்ல பண்ணிடுவோம். அந்த மேட்டருக்காக இப்போ நீங்க சில டைம் வேக்கண்டா அந்த மேட்டருக்காக விடணும். இப்போ வேள்பாரி பார்த்தீங்கன்னா ஃபுல் பிக்சர் பெயிண்டிங்காகவே ஃபுல்லாக கொடுத்தேன். ஒரு கருத்துக்கு ஒரு கதர் மேட்ரு வரும். ஸோ அதுக்கு தகுந்த மாதிரி சென்சிட்டிவ் மைண்டை கிரியேட் பண்ணிக்கணும். அப்புறம் இன்னொன்று நமக்கு என்னென்ன ஒரு சீன்லையும் அது ஒரு கீ டிராயிங் போட்டுட்டு தான் நான் பண்ணுவேன். கீ டிராயிங்னா தட் மீன்ஸ் இந்த டிராயிங் பேப்பர்லேயே ஒரு ஃபார்ம் எடுத்து பேலன்ஸ் பண்ணிட்டு அதுக்கப்புறம் இந்த சிச்சுவேஷன்ஸ் எல்லாம் பண்ணி அதை சொல்ற மாதிரி அந்த டெவலப் பண்றது தான் அது வரும். அப்போ அந்த ஸ்பேஸ் வந்து அந்த ஸ்பேஸ்ல உள்ள கேப் ஸ்பேஸ் கூட அதுல வந்து ஏதாவது லைட்டா காமிக்கணும் அப்படின்றதெல்லாம் வரும். சில டைம்ல லைட்டா விடுறது ஒரு பேட்டர்ன், ஃபில் பண்ணும் போதையும் ஒரு பியூட்டி தரணும். அது என்டையர் பிக்சர் ஃபில் பண்ணும் போதையும் அதுக்கு ஒரு பேலன்ஸ் கொடுக்கணும். நம்ம வந்து அந்த மாதிரி கலர் ஸ்கீமிங்ஸ் அண்ட் வாட் எவர் இட் மே பி அக்கார்டிங் டு சப்ஜெக்ட் அண்ட் மூட்.
I'll ask one final, perhaps slightly difficult question, because not difficult to answer, but answer briefly. Are there, besides your father, are there other artists who inspired you, and have other artists say, come and talk to you and said you are their inspiration?
டெஃபினட்டா. ஏன்னா இப்போ எனக்கு நான் எங்க அப்பா போன அப்புறம் நான் கோகுலு, சில்பி சார் அவங்களெல்லாம் நான் போய் பார்ப்பேன். அப்புறம் மாருதி, ஜெயராஜ் எல்லாரையும் போய் பார்ப்பேன் நான். ஏன்னா எனக்கு எல்லாருமே குருமார்களாக இருப்பேன். அவதூத கதைகளை சொல்ற மாதிரி எனக்கு யார் நல்ல விஷயங்கள்லாம் என்னால் அவங்ககிட்டேருந்து நான் எடுத்துக்கிறணும், அதுக்கெல்லாம் அவங்க குருவா இருக்கிறது நினைப்பேன். என்ன கோகுல் சார் அவர் தான் பிதாமகரான்னு நினைக்கிறேன் நான். ஏன்னா ஆஃப்டர் ஆல் ரவுண்டில் பார்க்கும்போது அப்பாவுக்கு அடுத்து நான் கோகுல் சாரை ரொம்ப மதிப்பேன். சில்பி சார் கொஞ்சம் அர்லியாக போயிட்டேன். அவர் 91 வரைக்கும் மேலே இருந்தார். அப்போ அந்த டைமில் சொல்லுவார். ஏன்னா நான் ஒரு வாட்டியும் அவரை சிலாச்சு நான் சொல்லிட்டு இருப்பேன், அதெல்லாம் அதெல்லாம் பழைய விஷயம், இப்ப நீ பண்ற இல்ல அதுதான் அது அது அப்படி சொல்லும்போது எனக்கு ரொம்ப ஆச்சரியம். அந்த இடத்துல நீ என்ன பண்ற, அந்த அந்த ஃபுல் ஷார்ட்டை போட்டுட்டு அங்கங்க ஒரு திடீர்னு அங்கங்க இது வைக்கிறீங்களா ஸ்ட்ரோக்ஸ், அது எப்படி நீ பண்ற அப்படி என்ன கேட்பாரு. எனக்கு நான் அசல் சார் என்ன சார் இது அது எதுக்கு சொல்லுவாருன்னா, அவர்கிட்ட இருந்தெல்லாம் இந்த மாதிரி ஒரு அப்ரிசியேஷன் பெருமைக்காக சொல்லலை. பட் என்னன்னா அவ்வளோ அந்யோன்யமா அதை அவர் ரசிச்சு, அது அவ்வளோ பெரிய ஒரு எக்ஸ்பீரியன்ஸ் அவரெல்லாம் போட்டாருன்னா ஒரு சிங்கிள் லைன்ல அப்படியே பியூட்டிஃபுல் எஃபெக்ட் எல்லாம் கிடைக்கும். இதெல்லாம் அவங்களோட கைடன்ஸு, அவங்களோட அப்சர்வேஷன், இன்ஸ்பிரேஷனு, அது மட்டும் இல்லை, எனக்கு நம்பர் ஆஃப் இன்னைக்கும் இன்டர்நேஷனல் லெவல்ல எந்தெந்த இல்லஸ்ட்ரேட்டர்ஸை எப்படி பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கான்றதை நான் ஃபீட்பேக் எடுத்துட்டு தான் இருக்கேன். நான் அதை பார்த்து அப்சர்வ் பண்ணுவேன். பட் ஐ ஒன்ட், அதாவது அதுலேருந்து உள்ளேருந்து நமக்கு உள்ளுக்குள்ள வாங்கிட்டு அதனுடைய வெளிப்பாடாக நான் எடுத்துட்டு வரதுக்கு தான் நான் முயற்சி பண்றேன். நான் எல்லாத்துக்குமே அதுல முக்கியமா எனக்கு உபநிஷத்துங்களுக்கு பண்ணும்போது தட் எக்ஸ்பீரியன்ஸ் இஸ் சம்திங் டிஃப்ரெண்ட் எனக்கு அந்த படம். ஏன்னா அது இன்டெலெக்சுவல் ரீடிங் புக், அது விஷுவல் தேவையில்லை. அதுக்கு நான் விஷுவல் ட்ரை பண்ணும்போது ஐ ட்ரை மை பெஸ்ட், அவ்வளோதான் சொல்லணும். நல்லதா இருக்கா நல்லான்னு தெரியாது எனக்கு. ஸோ ஐ ட்ரை மை பெஸ்ட்.
I'll share one last comment from Kritish Suresh. Appa is not only for artists, but for everyone who wants to get connected themselves with the entire Bharat. அப்படின்னு அவர் படிச்சிருக்காரு. ஸோ இட்ஸ் நாட் ஜஸ்ட் ஆர்டிஸ்ட், ஒரு நம்ம கலாச்சாரத்தையே ஒரு பிரதிபலிக்கிற ஆசைப்படுறவங்களுக்கு ஒரு இன்ஸ்பிரேஷன் அப்படின்னு. ஐ திங்க் a lot of people are just effusive in comments. They are not asking any questions. They are just taking by themselves back to 20, 30, 40 years to all the memories that they have. So wonderful presentation, Subhashini. Outstanding selection of pictures. The way you uh, chose from the very beginning of his career with the logo signature, and then the transformation to Maniam Selven, and then all the compositions. That lady in that Chettinad house, and that and that again that Kailas, the shine, the contrast between brightness and the dark setting. The Kailas Nadala, I could see that again.
That
It was
one
wonderful.
figure where only through lines that couple was created. That's absolutely
outstanding.
amazing.
So
Yeah.
So thank you for a wonderful evening. So
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for TST.
Thank you, sir, and thank you, Subhashini. And
நான் ரொம்ப ரொம்ப சந்தோஷம். எனக்கு இன்னொரு 20-30 வருஷத்துக்கு முன்னாடி இருந்தேன்னா இன்னும் படங்கள்லாம் நல்லா போட்டிருக்கோம் டூருக்கெல்லாம் வந்து நினைக்கிறேன். ரியலி வெரி ஹாப்பி. சாம்நாத் சாருக்கு என் நமஸ்காரங்கள். பெரிய எல்லாருக்கும் என்னுடைய வணக்கங்கள். தேங்க்யூ.
Thank you, sir, and thank you, Subhashini. That was really very, very, very interesting.
Thank
You
you.
knew him so well, and you really traced it at close quarters. We are really lucky to have this talk with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
just before, thank you, sir. Just before we conclude, I just want to say, yeah, I just want to remind our viewers that next month we'll be back with our Tamil Heritage Trust's Indology Festival, THT Indofest 2026. This year, the Indofest is going to be conducted between June 11th to June 16th. That is from Thursday to Tuesday, including the weekend in between. It will be 6 days and 12 lectures, all online, from 5:30 to 8:30 in the night. And it is called From Caves to Canvas, Evolution of Indian Painting. We are still in the process of finalizing our subtopics and speakers, and our itinerary should be available soon to share with all of you. This teaser is to tell all of you to kindly block your calendar and attend this event without fail. And of course, for anybody who misses some or all of the talks due to prior commitments, they will be available on YouTube. So looking forward to seeing all of you at the Indofest next month. There will be no monthly talk because the Indofest is just starting immediately after that. So in this monthly talk series, we'll be seeing you in July 2000, on the first Saturday of July 2026. Thank you so much. Thank you for your patience and waiting it through that minor glitch that we had. We'll try our best to avoid such glitches in future. Thank you so much. Ravi? Ravi,